everybody. I want to welcome you to the Writer's Room. This is Miss Tamara from Midpoint Trenton, and today's topic is going to be From Idea to Plot. And today we'll be using the Chapter 3 of Plot and Structure. That's in the Write Great Fiction series. It is by James Scott Bell, and it's from Writer's Digest Books, 2004. Now, if you don't know who he is, James Scott Bell is the author of over 25 novels, plus he is my go-to teacher on the craft of fiction writing. You can learn more at his website, which is jamesscottbell.com. So, the whole thing about ideas is limitless possibilities. So, writers, never limit yourselves. Writing is more than what you know, where you live or travel, or even how old you are. Anything is possible with enough imagination, ideas, and research. So, as James Scott Bell reminds us, by going deep into your own heart and soul, you will find a wellspring of ideas to write about. Moreover, your writing will come alive, and your stories will have the chance to truly move your readers. So the market wants gripping fiction without cliches, standard characters, or tired plots. And the key to satisfying this market, to making your fiction sing with originality, is to write who you are. So, about this writing who you are, James Scott Bell has this personality filter questionnaire. So these are some of the things he wants you to sit down and write. So, what do you care about most in the world? If you were to write your own obituary, how would you want it to read? What is your physical appearance? How do you feel about it? How does it affect you? What do you fear the most? What are your major strengths of character? What are your major flaws? What are you good at? What do you wish you were good at? If you could do one thing and know that you would be successful, what would you do? What are 3 events from your childhood that helped shape you into the person you are today? What are some of your annoying habits? What secret in your life do you hope is never revealed? And lastly, what is your philosophy of life? So, James Scott Bell wants to tell you that answering these questions opens up a door into your own soul. From that viewpoint, you can better evaluate your plot ideas. Does this story you're considering hit a nerve inside you? If not, why even write it? So, by knowing yourself truly and honestly, by writing with passion and intensity, by caring about important issues, you'll find your writing is not only fresh, but a joy, because you'll have you. So let's get started at looking at those ideas. So, Mr. Bell recommends that you need to come up with hundreds of ideas, toss out the ones that don't grab you, and then nurture and develop what's left. So, he's got some rules for finding ideas. Schedule a regular idea time, at least once a week. Get yourself into a relaxed state, in a quiet spot where your imagination can run free. Give yourself 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. That means no social media, no TV. Music is good if it helps you. But just uninterrupted time. Select one of the 20 ways to get plot idea exercises that I'll be going through. Begin by letting your imagination come up with anything it wants and record everything on paper and computer. The most important rule: do not censor yourself in any way. Leave your editorial mind out of the loop. Just let the ideas come pouring out in any way, shape, or form they want to. Do not judge anything at this point. Have fun, lots of fun. Save all your ideas. After 2 or 3 sessions, it's time to assess those ideas. So repeat the process as often as you want or as often as you need to in your writing life. So let's get started with those 20 ways. Number 1 is called the what if game. So ask yourself, what if, when you read or see something interesting? So read news articles, ask what if for anything that sparks your interest. For every TV show or movie you watch, ask what if. Let your mind roam free. Write down your what if questions as a list. So put the list aside, go back a few days later, take anything promising, and make more notes. You may have your next book. So the second one is titles. You make up a cool title and then write a book to go with it. So if some title pops into your mind, think about what kind of book that could be. Number 3 is the list. This is where you take a list of nouns that come from your subconscious, 1 or 2 words taken from memories, dreams, whatever pops into your mind. Then you're going to write those down and see if anything flows from those words. Number 4 is a big one. It's issues. So what kind of issues push your buttons? Outrage is a great emotion for a writer. Start an issues list. Find an issue that makes you passionate and make sure it's one likely to make people mad. Choose sides. What's your moral viewpoint? Come up with a good argument to defend your position. Now, come up with a good argument for the other side. Your job as a writer is to see the whole picture. So ask yourself, what kind of person would care most about each side of the issue? Then also remember that fiction is not a sermon. Your job is to deliver a gripping story, not a windy lecture. So number 5 is called See It. Let your imagination play you a movie. Ask yourself, what do I really want to write about at this moment in time? Issues, characters, situations. Pick the one that interests you the most. So close your eyes and start the movie. What do you see? Do this for as long as you want. So start writing for about 20 minutes. Do this every day for 5 days, adding to your written material each day. And take a day off, look at your movie journal, and highlight anything that sparks your interest. So this is the one time that we as writers get to do nothing but daydream and picture movies. So that one's a fun one. So number 6 is called Hear It. So listen to music that moves you. As you listen, close your eyes and see what pictures, scenes, or characters develop. Which leads us to character first, which is number 7. So develop a dynamic character and see where that character leads. So ways to do this is you can visualizing. Close your eyes and see the first person who comes to mind. Recreating who you know. Take a character from your past and recreate that person. Obituaries. Adapt someone's interesting life story to create a character. So after coming up with a character, ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen to this person? Number 8 is quote-unquote stealing from the best. So take the germ of another plot and weave your particular magic with it. You can rework fairy tales, legends, mythology. You can put a particular type of character in a different setting, time, or genre. You can write a new spin on a classic like Romeo and Juliet or even Frankenstein. But remember, plagiarism is stealing someone else's work. So you cannot lift the exact plot with the same characters intact. But you may take a pattern which is another word for plot, and use it. So, the one exception, fan fiction. Fan fiction must always be labeled as such and credit the original creators. Follow the rules for the site where you post to make sure you're not violating anyone who doesn't want their work turned into fan fiction. So number 9 is flipping a genre. So all your genres have long-standing conventions. So you take those expectations and turn them upside down, mix them up. So if you're not sure what elements make up a certain genre, then just Google it and it'll tell you what those elements are. Number 10 is predict a trend. So novels can be hot because of subject matter alone. Predict what will occupy the popular mind. So if you find something like this, ask, who would care about it? What would that person do about it next year, in 10 years? What would happen if all of society embraced this? What would happen if all of society rejected this? And who would it hurt the most? You may have a best-selling book there in that idea. Number 11 is what he calls noodling the newspaper. So read all types of news, either in a newspaper or most of us do online format these days. So have your homing device set for sparks that get your mind zooming in original directions. Take an item, ask that series of what-if questions to expand on what you find. And if you want to save the information for later, print out a hard copy or save the article digitally. Which then leads to number 12, which is research. So there are different ways to get information and ideas from research. You can choose a nonfiction book on a subject you always wanted to know about. Skim the book for an overview. Jot down some plot ideas that come to you. Then read the book in greater detail. And spot more ideas and flesh out those you already have. So number 13 is the quote, what I really want to write about is, so take this prompt and write 10 minutes without stopping. This is good for a stream of consciousness exercise as well as to use as a writing warm-up. So number 14 is obsession. So an obsession controls the deepest emotions of a character. It pushes that character and prompts that character to action. So create a character, give that character an obsession, and watch where that character runs. Number 15 is opening lines. So writing opening lines can be fun. I spent one time just writing opening lines for days until I got it right so I could move on to the rest of the story. So try the opening lines. Your imagination will thank you. So another one is write a prologue. So page-turning fiction today often begins with an action prologue. It doesn't have to involve the main character, but something exciting, mysterious, suspenseful, or shocking happens. Number 17 is this thing called a mind map. You may have done something like this before. It's where you find associations from one word. So a mind map is this web of quick associations rendered into a visual form. So James Scott Bell gives you 3 steps. Ready, choose a word or a concept to develop. Write it in the center of a blank sheet of paper. Draw a circle around it. So then fire. Without much thought, let your mind jot down connections, associations with this word and concept. And then lastly is aim. Your pattern mind will give you what Gabriel Lasserico calls a trial web shift. This shift will provide you with a new sense of direction or focus in terms of your map. You will have an idea. Then we go to number 18, which is Sacco endings, which James Scott Bell also calls the knockout ending. So Endings often make or break a story. If the ending is flat, we are unsatisfied, even if what has come before is compelling. So, how to come up with a Sacco ending first. Visualize a climactic scene in the theater of your mind. Hear music to go with it. Let the full range of emotions burst forth. Add characters as you will to heighten conflict. Play around with variations on this theme until something unforgettable happens. And then ask, who are the characters? What circumstances brought them here? How can I trace back the story to its logical starting point? So, many writers feel that having a possible ending in mind is the best available narrative compass. Number 19 is kind of fun. It's called occupations. So come up with an idea based on an intriguing occupation. So keep a list of intriguing, interesting occupations you come across as you read. Check out the Occupational Outlook Handbook. That's at the U.S. Department of Labor. That's www.bls.gov/OOH. And that has different job descriptions. We'll give you all the information on what responsibilities a person with that job has. It's a really good resource. Then lastly, number 20, and believe me, I've been there myself, is desperation. So maybe you're sitting before a blank sheet or screen, and there's nothing in your head. You've exhausted all your possibilities. You are a desperate writer. Maybe that deadline's coming. The answer is just write anyway. Who knows? You may come up with your best work when you're staring at that blank page and you got to have something written before tomorrow, or you're not going to make that deadline. So give it a shot and see what happens. So how do we nurture those ideas? So James Scott Bell says, go for a hook, line, and sinker. So choose your favorite idea and write a hook, line, and sinker. So the hook equals the big idea. The line is the grabber copy for your idea in 1 or 2 sentences. The sinker is those things, what might sink your idea. So ask yourself, has this type of story been done before? If yes, what elements can you add to make it unique? Is the setting ordinary? Are the characters you're thinking of made of old stock? Is the story big enough to grab a number of readers? And is there some other element you can add that is fascinating? Which leads to the next point is James Scott Bell's pyramid. This pyramid is made up of 3 ideas, the base of which is passion. Without a passionate commitment to the plot as a story you're burning to tell, your voice will not be original or compelling. You've got to want this. Potential. So consider the possible reach of an idea to an audience. So make sure that there might be readers for this work. Lastly is precision. So be precise in your plot goals. So I'm going to give you a few, putting it into practice, how I've done this in my writing. Number 1 is going to be research. Okay, so I admit, I was the kid who read encyclopedias. I even compiled notebooks to remember favorite subjects. So I guess you say I was writing my own encyclopedias. So, plus, I began my library career as a reference librarian. So for me, learning new things through research is fun. So, but writer be warned, when you get into research, it's easy to fall down that proverbial rabbit hole when one thing leads to another and you keep exploring at the cost of precious writing time. So here are a few tips I found useful doing research and finding ideas along the way. So find a new setting. So I once subscribed to numerous travel magazines to get setting ideas. The internet makes setting research a lot easier. So try roughguides.com, boardpanda.com. Yes, you heard me right. The site is called Board Panda. Pinterest, if you haven't used it for book research, Pinterest is great for finding ideas and creating boards for your writing projects. So I got a couple more tips here. So reuse your research. If I find something I'm really into researching, often the information gets recycled into new storylines. For example, I'm a fairy tale, legend, and mythology geek. I was reading up on Hades and the rivers of the underworld for a fan fiction. A short story contest came up with river as the theme. So in an excerpt from my suspense novel Vanish in Darkness, a professor character uses the rivers to explain her philosophy of life. So speaking of professors, a favorite one of mine recommended to read outside your field. You never know when something seemingly random might spark ideas in your imagination that lead to something fun to do. And last tip I have for you on research right now is build a fantastic world. So pick climates, landscapes, plants, animals, buildings, anything rooted in our world, transform them into a fantasy world or a distant planet. So for a science fiction story, I wanted a habitable planet that remained in perpetual winter. So I did biome research and read a lot of survival tip books for such an environment. Along with snow and ice, I created a feline predator. I crossed a saber-toothed tiger with a snow leopard. So I find using children's nonfiction books are good starting points for a basic subject overview. So my number 2 here is the what if game. So the what if question has appealed to me most of my writing life. There's an added appeal of what if when it comes to writing fan fiction. So what if is often asked by fans who like to write what is called fix-it fic, also known as fix fic, to cover plot holes, out of character moments, or to bring a favorite character back from the dead. What If is exactly what led me to a fan fiction for Once Upon a Time. That's the 2011 to 18 ABC fairy tale adventure created by Adam Horowitz and Edward Kitsis. So, I began a Once Upon a Time fan fiction titled Love is Strong as Death halfway through season 5 because we learned the next villain was going to be Hades and we were going to the underworld. My inner mythology geek strikes again. So what I was really hoping was that we'd see what happened to Rumpelstiltskin when he quote-unquote died in season 3. I also wanted to fix an important character death. Neil Cassidy, Balefire, Rumpel's son, and Henry Mills's dad. So I asked, what if everything from the Enchanted Forest events, bringing Rumpel back from the dead to the current episodes, didn't happen as we saw them, but were only events of a possible future he saw in the underworld, which also led to my next thing, which is what if, a Beauty and the Beast what if, Once Upon a Time style. So season 4 had been rough for fans of Rumpel, the Beast, and Belle. So on the Once Upon a fan site that she edited, my ultimate Beauty and the Beast fan friend Teresa put a quote from the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast to this picture from the episode Best Laid Plans that led to my next what if. And that quote is from Beauty and the Beast. During her sleep, in a voice which touched her heart, he said, "Judge not by thine eyes, and above all abandon me not, but release me from the terrible torment which I endure." So with Love as Strong as Death and the underworld setting, this quote inspired me to ask, what if Rumpel visited Belle in her dreams and warned her of Bay's death? So the story took new twists and turns. My main point with doing the what if exercise is let a what if or two take your imagination on a wild ride. And lastly, I have knockout endings. So I used to be a compulsive outliner when I started out writing. Now I'd say I'm more the kind of writer this quote by E.L. Doctorow describes. And the quote, "Writing is like driving at night in the fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way." So while I like to write like this, I also at least like to sketch out a potential ending. It may change when I see something different in the headlights, but at least I have a general sense of the journey's end. So, about knockout endings, I have The Case of the Split Book. Okay, Vanish in Darkness, that novel in progress I mentioned, was originally going to have its knockout ending 30 years from the point the book started in the 1980s. I had it planned out perfectly, or so I thought. So, this is where I like to compare writing to working a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes, like Dr. Rose said, you can only see a little way through the fog. Well, my puzzle grew from a 500-piece work to a complicated, impossible 1,500-piece disaster. Who the more important lead character was changed. Subplots grew. Traumatic events suffered by both lead characters couldn't be glanced over with a convenient, almost Hallmark movie-sounding time jump of 30 happy years later. And I had well over 150,000 words of scenes in what was supposed to be a 90,000-word first novel. So, enter the need for a new knockout ending idea. It's taken some changes in who the main villain is and how to tie up loose ends in a way the reader will hopefully be satisfied, but research and patience always comes through. Recently, checking out that roughguide.com website I told you about led me to an interesting discover on where I want the climax to take place. So, it's a different puzzle from where I started, but I'll take it, because never be afraid to let your characters take the wheel and handle the night driving. They'll get you, the befuddled author, through the fog to the end of the novel. So I got a few exercises from Mr. Bell's chapter 3. So number 1 is choose 2 ways to get ideas. Set aside at least an hour of writing time for each idea. Pick the idea you like best and give that idea a hook, line, and sinker. Number 2 is apply Bell's pyramid to your idea. Is there enough passion, potential, and precision to make you want to continue? And number 3 is resolve to set aside a few hours a month just for getting ideas. Stay alert to possibilities around you for ideas. Keep notes, pin ideas on Pinterest, whatever way you'll be able to keep track of them. And once a month, go through your ideas and nurture them. So that's it today. I want to thank everyone for joining me today on the journey from idea to plot. We'd love to know which of these ideas are your favorites, and if you have any other ways that you find ideas for your writing, please share your own tips, thoughts, and any questions in the comments on the YouTube or Facebook versions of this video. If you're interested in reading my fan fiction, you can find it at archiveofourown.com/TS Menninger. If you have any questions or want to share work for critique, please email me at tmenninger@midpointlibrary.org. And to keep up what's happening at Midpoint Library System, please like us on Facebook and Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And one last important thing, always, always keep on writing. Until next time, this is Miss Tamara, and I'll see you in the writer's room next month. Thank you.